What's going on? How are you? Hope you're having an amazing day. If you don't know who I am, I'm Brian Bowman. I'm the founder of eCom Underground, and we help e-commerce brands make more money online. And what I want to talk about today is what I consistently see as the biggest barrier that keeps brands from having, breakthrough success, breakthrough revenue, and really reaching the full potential of their brand. And I've kind of talked about this in the past where I think there's a lot of really good information. I think there's a lot of really bad information too, but there's a lot of good information on the marketing side of things. So basically how to go out, get attention and bring that attention back to your site, back to your product so people can make a buying decision. Where I think there's a lack of good and complete information is on the math behind that. So you've got the marketing, but then you have the math behind that marketing. And you need both to be able to scale. I've said before, what I've seen is, you can sort of ham and egg your way to 4 and 5 figures a month with e-commerce, but to really break through and have 6, 7 figures a month or more in revenue, you have to have both of these pieces and you have to have a really good understanding of how they both work together. So there's a lot of bad math out there and a lot of brands that are struggling to really scale. And I don't want you to be one of them. So that's why I create, training like this. So what I want to dive into is kind of first principles on your marketing efforts. I think that there's a lot of well-intentioned advice out there, but a lot of it's just anecdotal. You'll go in a group, you ask a question, and someone will say, "Oh, have you tried this?" Or, change that button color to green, or scale that ad and not that one, or maybe change this or change that. But it doesn't really matter for you because you have to tailor this stuff to your business and you have to know the math behind your marketing efforts, as it relates to your product, your margin, all those things for you to really know and be able to answer the most important question, which is, will ads even work for this product? And what I'm going to share with you today is honestly what I wish I would have known 9 years ago before I ever paid for my first ad. I think that at the end of this, if you'll stick through to the end of this, you will be way more certain about your marketing efforts and whether they will work for your brand or not. And B, if you're on the cusp of, let's say, if you find out that yes, this is absolutely going to work, it's going to be very easy for you to scale. You'll have tons of confidence, tons of certainty. But if you're on that borderline, or maybe it's not quite working out, you're going to have a lot of clarity on which levers to pull to turn sort of a red light of don't run ads, don't scale through this traffic source, to a green light of, yeah, you can get after it and now really, break through. And again, having this understanding of how the marketing and the math work together is just it's gonna be a game changer for you. And the reality is, I haven't ever seen anyone talk about this. So I don't know if it's that people don't know about it. I don't know if it's that they're holding it close to their chest because they don't want anyone else to know about it. But I've never seen anyone break this down and go back to first principles like this. So I'm optimistic this is going to be really valuable for you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually share my screen and dive into the calculator that we use internally with our students, with our clients, that helps us get clarity on this and answer that very simple question: will ads work? And if they will, what do we need to do to scale quickly? And if they're not working, is there a path to making them work? And then again, how do we scale that quickly? So I'm going to go ahead, turn the screen around here and share my screen so that we can dive into this and enjoy. And I hope you enjoy content like this. If you do, let me know, because that actually tells me to create more content like this so I can keep helping you and more sellers that are struggling. So see you in a little bit. I'm going to share my screen and we're going to dive into the numbers. All right, so what I want to do is, like I said, go through some of these numbers and go back to first principles on marketing and answer that big question: will marketing work? Will this traffic source work for my business, for my brand, for my product? Now, I will say, if you're listening to this, I'm gonna go slow and try to break all the concepts down that I'm going through, but I think it will be easier to see this. So we'll link to the video wherever this audio is posted. But if you're looking at this and you're thinking spreadsheets, or you're hearing this, and you're thinking spreadsheets and numbers, and I can't do any of this, please, go through this and stick with it, because I think it's going to give you a ton of clarity, a ton of confidence. And like I said, I've never seen anyone break this down like this and talk about it. So I think it's going to be a competitive advantage for you. So I'm not going to go through every single number and formulas or anything. I really just want to talk about the concepts and get you thinking about your marketing in this framework, okay? So the main numbers that we're really going to talk about here, there's 5 numbers, and one of them you can't really do a lot about directly. It's sort of a product of other things that you do. So 5 numbers are, number one, your link click-through rate. So this is, and I'm going to be talking about this, the stats I'm pulling are going to be from Facebook, but this works for any paid media. These are the numbers you're going to want to look at. So the link click-through rate, this is the rate at which people click on the link. So there's a link on your ad, not just click anywhere on the ad, but click on the actual link to go to your product page or wherever you're sending the traffic to. There's the link click-through rate, the link cost per click, so how much is it costing for that link click? The conversion rate on your offer, so if you have 100 people click, 1 person buys, you have a 1% conversion rate, right? 1 is 1% of 100. And then your average order value, AOV, that's the 4th number. So on average, when people convert, how much do they spend? And then your profit margin. So let's look at some of these. Now I have some benchmarks here. These are, we have these averages here. Honestly, they're good to have and good to see, but at the end of the day, how these numbers relate to your margin and your product, your average order value is really what matters. So link click-through rate that we normally see in e-commerce, 1% is about average. Better, higher than that's better. Link cost per click, $1.25 is about average. Lower is better. Conversion rate, 1.5% is about average. Higher is better. Average order value, around $40. Again, higher is better. And then profit margin usually tends to be in that sort of 60% mark. But again, that's going to vary on your product. So let's go through a scenario here where we'll do a sort of, not a fake scenario, but a scenario for a product, and then I'll walk through the stats on a actual product that I actually went through a coaching call with, and we pulled their numbers to look at whether or not they could scale their ads. So here I've got the numbers on what would be the marketing funnel. Now this doesn't necessarily have to be a ClickFunnels page or anything. This could be the funnel in your Shopify store. People buy the main product, and then there's some pre-purchase upsells, some post-purchase upsells. Now there's a whole strategy and there's all these tactics around that alone on increasing average order value. That's a different video, and I'll talk about that later. But just know that average order value is going to be such a critical component of all of this. You really want to focus on driving that up. Remember, to grow your business, at the end of the day, you need more leads, so more people that you can convert into customers, more customers, getting those customers to spend more money when they buy, and getting them to come back and spend more often. So let's look at this scenario. So let's say that it's a $35 product, and when people buy, they spend $35, obviously. Now you've got a pre-purchase upsell, which 20% of people take. That's $9. So that would be on average a $1.80 contribution to the average order value, right? If 20% of people spend $9, then all people on average spend $1.80. Does that make sense? 10% take a $25 post-purchase offer, and 10% take a $25 post-purchase offer, second post-purchase offer. So that's a total contribution on the first post-purchase of $250, second one $250. When you add it all up, you take the $35 they spent, which again, if they buy a $35 thing, on average, everyone spends at least $35, right? Then on the pre-purchase upsell, you've got on average a contribution of $1.80, plus $35. Then you add $250 plus $250 on the first upsell, plus $250 on the second upsell. You have a total average order value of $41.80. So let's take that and we're going to plug it in. So now we have our marketing math, right? It was what it cost to get the ads to the product, and then how much were people spending, right? Those are obviously 2 really critical numbers. Then we have to know your profit margin. So if your profit margin, let's say in this scenario, is 36%, which would be actually quite low, but I want to show you the difference in what profit margin can do for your marketing efforts and allow you to scale. So we have $41.80, which was your average order value, which we just calculated, right? And you can see how there's things you can do to make that go up, which again, different topic for different video, but that's super important. And now I've got the numbers from the ads. We went out, we got 45,000 impressions, spent $700, had 700 clicks. So what that translates into, it translates into a 1.55% click-through rate, link click-through rate. Remember, I said 1% is good, anything above that's better. Now, we obviously want to drive that up. We want more clicks, but let's say that that's our baseline. That's on average what we got after we put about $700 into ad spend, right? Then our cost per link click was about $1. That's pretty good. That's a little bit lower than average. And this is where people will say, well, is $1, is $1 link cost per click, is that good or bad? It's like, I don't know, because we don't know your profit margin, average order value, conversion rate, right? All of these things have to play together for us to be able to really answer that question, is that a good or bad number? Then let's say as a result of that, you got 20 purchases. So if you had 700 clicks and 20 purchases, that means you had a little under a 2.9% conversion rate. Bam, that's really good, okay? For a Shopify store, that's really good. For a more targeted offer like a funnel or a dedicated landing page on Shopify, we would expect that to be higher, but that's really good. I mean, 2.86 on a cold offer, that's great. So now we have some of these numbers. You ran ads, you had a 1.55% link click-through rate, dollar cost per click, a little under 3% conversion rate with a $41.80 average order value. Okay, so now that fifth piece that we need is the profit margin. So with a 36% profit margin, that means your break-even ROAS, the return on ad spend. So if you run Facebook ads, you've heard of the term ROAS. The return on ad spend, the break-even return on ad spend is 2.78. If your revenue or your ROAS is below 2.78, you are losing money acquiring those, in this case, 20 new buyers, okay? And I did a separate video on this. Go watch that because I talk about how to calculate that number and why it's so important. So you can see here that our actual ROAS, when we look at, so return on ad spend is just revenue divided by ad spend. So we had $836, right? 20 purchases at $41.80. $836 divided by the amount of ad spend, $700 in ad spend, right? So that is a return on ad spend of 1.19. Now that number is significantly below 2.78. So it resulted in a loss of $400. So the answer is like, can we scale these ads? If these were the numbers, this is really, really challenging because now if you look at this, we'd have to increase average order value, significantly, because we're not going to really increase conversion rate much higher. 2.86 is solid. We're not really going to increase link click-through rate much more than 1.5. Could we get it to 2%? Maybe. Is that going to make a big enough difference to bridge the gap between 1.19 ROAS and 2.78, which is our break even? Probably not. And there's not much we can do about link click-through or cost per click because we can't really increase the click-through rate. So really, only thing we can do here is the two things we can really do is increase average order value and dramatically increase our profit margin. So watch what happens when we go from a 36% profit margin to a more standard 65% profit margin. All of a sudden, our break-even ROAS goes to 1.54, which is excellent, right? Because now that's way more doable. Now we're bridging the gap between 1.19 and 1.54. Now, if all we can do is, if we can go into this and increase our average order value, let's say from $41.80 to $45, that's still not going to do it. So 1.29, that ROAS is not going to be scalable for us. If we can go to $54, all right, now we're talking. So if we had a $54 average order value with all the metrics that we just said, and we can keep the same conversion rate and increase profit margin, boom, all of a sudden, now this works. So can we do that? I will say, we've absolutely been able to take average order value and increase it from $41.80 to $54. So you can see here that the answer is, maybe if you can pull those levers, maybe ads will work if you can pull those levers. If you cannot, if your average order value was $41.80 and you're like, man, the most I could do is maybe get it to 45, and you truly have a 38% margin on your product, which then means your break even is 2.63, and you have a 1.29 ROAS, I'll tell you right now, this traffic source, whatever it is, in this case, we're talking about Facebook ads, this traffic source isn't going to work. It's going to be very, very, very challenging. Now, if you have a subscription model where you're willing to borrow 30, 60, 90 days into the future to pay for today's acquisition, maybe that'll work. But generally, this is probably not going to work for you, right? So now let's take a different model. This is actually a coaching call we went through
and pulled these actual numbers. So here's the average order value for this product. And they were having a lot of success on the upsells. So 23% were taking the pre-purchase, 23.5% were taking the first upsell, and 20% were taking the second upsell. So their total average order value was $67.71. So when you look at that, $67.71, and they actually had a much higher conversion rate. They were converting at a little over 5%. So yeah, they were at about 5%. So now if we take the same cost per link, same click-through rate, same cost per link click, and now we've got a 5% conversion rate on a $67.71 average order value with that same 38% profit margin, their ROAS is 3.39 with a break even of 2.63. So for them, are they able to scale? Absolutely. There's plenty of room there. The math behind their marketing supports them scaling. And they've got tons of room there. And it's a 30-day supply, so there is going to be reorders. On average, they'll have about 30% of people reorder, which is going to contribute an additional $710 in revenue in this case. So when you look at their front end profit, they're going to make with these ad numbers $200 acquiring 35 new customers on $700 in ad spend, and 30 days out, they're going to have a total profit after reorders of $470. So you can see here, this is a super profitable model. Whatever traffic source this is, which happen to be Facebook, this is going to work, so scale it. And you can even use this to project, because I think that's actually what we did here. We were projecting, because I knew this industry well. I had scaled another brand in this space. So I knew what CPMs would be, which is cost per thousand impression, basically how much will it cost to even run these ads. I kind of had an idea of what link click-through rates would be, and I had a really good idea on what cost per click was going to be. We already knew their conversion rate numbers. We actually lowered them a little bit to offset, because they had first run this through warm traffic, which it had like almost 7% conversion rate, so we knew it'd have to be lower for cold. We knew average order value would be about the same. And so I had kind of plugged in some numbers because I knew the market, so I knew these were going to be their marketing numbers on the ads. And when you plug in their revenue and average order value and their reorders and stuff, it's a no-brainer. Like, you can confidently go out there and pour fuel on this fire. You know it's going to scale, and there's room for error here. There's margin of error. That is huge. There's this margin of safety, rather, where we know when we start to scale, performance will tend to kind of decrease because we're going to a bigger market. Facebook, for example, tends to go to the low-hanging fruit and get those first customers first, and then conversion rates kind of drop, and it costs more to get a sale. But still, there's so much margin of safety here, you can confidently go out and scale this. So again, and there's a lot more we can talk about, like the nuance in each one of these pieces, average order value, and how to increase link click-through rate and all that. But I just want you to have, just awareness of this stuff. Because again, someone might say like, oh, change the headline. I can promise you, if you look at those old numbers, so if we go in here and we put in $41.80 as the average order value, here, we'll do $44.80. And you're this far away from, we were doing this here. So, you're at a 1.28 ROAS on your ads, and you need to be at 2.63. I don't care what headline you use. It's not going to bridge that gap, okay? So if you got, an extra 100 clicks because you did that, an extra 500 clicks because you did that, it's not going to, if I plug this in here, it's not going to bridge the gap. If we almost doubled link click-through rate because we had a better headline, and we still had a great conversion rate and still had a great average order value, it's not going to bridge the gap from where we are to where we need to be. And that's what I'm trying to show you here. That's what I want you to have some clarity on, because you realize, like, there are areas of opportunity in your ads. There's areas that there's nothing you can really do about. There's areas that it's kind of been maxed out, and you're going to get incremental gains, and it's not going to be able to bridge the gap. In other cases, you've got margin of safety. You can confidently scale. In other cases, you're right on the brink, And all you need to do is if you could just tweak average order value a little bit, it'll give you that edge to now be able to scale. So those are those numbers that you need to be thinking about and looking at before you start running your ads. And then if you are, or after you've kind of run some ads, and you have some data, and that'll give you the confidence to be able to scale, or the confidence to be able to turn it off and look at a different traffic source. So I hope that's helped. If it does, again, please leave me a comment. Let me know. If it doesn't, let me know too, because I create this content to help you, and I want to make sure that this is valuable to you, and it helps you grow your brand, grow your business, and reach your brand's potential. So, yeah, hopefully that was helpful, and I will see you in the next video.